On this beautiful Friday morning. Actually, it is really beautiful outside. This is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste. I'm so excited to have a cosmic conversation with Tasha. Hey, Tasha, I see you there. Let's see. Hi, Grace. So nice to see you. And Nazine or Naza. Hi, Kelly. Hi, everyone. Hey, how are you?
Hi there. Happy New.
Yeah, happy Pisces New Moon. Mm,
Mm,
how's it
she
going?
was a loud one.
It really is. I mean, we are headed into the heart of darkness, into the cave. And the cave can be a very powerful place where you can go and get internal wisdom
Mm.
and do some shadow work, but it can
I was
also
gonna. It's really a descent that we're going through, especially with Venus retrograde starting tomorrow. I mean, it's so symbolic. It feels like, I mean, it feels biblical on some level. Like, wow, we really are living the symbolism hardcore right
we
now.
are the North Node's in Pisces, a sign of religion, belief systems, all of that. So introduce yourself in case anyone doesn't know who you are.
Oh my gosh. Hello, everyone. My name is Tasha. I am an intuitive astrologer, but I'm really also a pop culture pundit. And what I love doing is realistically follow pop culture, follow world events, and then try to break them down in as digestible of a manner so that people, can learn something, but more importantly, like we can all just gossip, really. Just kidding.
And I love how you do your work because it really stimulates my Venus, Mars, and Gemini. Because you really and
Yes.
are you going to Norway?
Oh my gosh. No, I need to get my life together. My this Mars retrograde has been on my South Node in Cancer and on my Cancer Sun, and just it has been very slowing down, and honestly it's really taught myself how to reorient myself around my schedule, like I need rest.
Mm.
I need to not do things. And so I'm allowing, I guess, the next month to come through and really show me where I'm supposed to be headed, and so I can really take the steps I need to take. So I'm still hoping to make my way there one of these days.
Okay. Well, I hope you're going to come to UAC in 2026.
Yeah,
That
on the
is
list.
on the list. Okay. Good, good. And so, what else? Because I wanted you to show me something about how you do all. I need someone to give me a little Instagram class about how you do all these different things. I mean, I'm so basic.
Oh my gosh, no, I am so basic. I have one air placement in my chart, so all of this has been like a learning, creative, cool experience. Me being an astrologer from Wall Street and then like taking on this, side creative project as well.
Okay, yeah, like when people do the thing where you're showing a chart and you're pointing, I'm like, oh, how do you do that? I don't even know how to do that. So,
TikTok. TikTok video editing is honestly, if you're like looking to get into video content creation, any kind of that, and you want to like, present and do stuff, the video filming aspect in TikTok is incredible. And it's so user friendly. Like
oh,
you literally green screen talk. It's amazing,
okay,
honestly. If you're not even an avid TikToker, the platform and the algorithm and the actual software is amazing for video editing.
okay. Well, if we're able to keep it, there's that 75-day thing. So I'm going to wait till after the 75 days before I invest my
Yes.
energy
Yes.
into learning all that stuff. Because if I do it and then it's gone, I'm going to be furious.
Oh my
So,
gosh, yeah.
so we're
Oh my
not
god.
doing that. So tell everybody your big three.
Oh my gosh. I am a Cancer Sun, a Scorpio rising with Pluto on the ascendant, and I'm also a Sagittarius moon.
Oh, how
Mhm.
cool. I love it. And your background. So tell us, like, what did you do for Wall Street and what, like,
Yeah.
what's your origin story?
Oh my gosh. So I am an immigrant. I am half Malaysian, half Pakistani. I moved to the States when I was 14. And then I went to college, I went to Wellesley, and then I did the whole finance Wall Street thing for about 10 years. And really during my Saturn return, I kind of hit this, not to say breaking point, but there was this moment of, oh my God, what am I even doing here? I don't really like my life. Like in theory, I'm supposed to like my life a lot right now because I live in New York and I make this money and I have this, life here that's so exciting, but I don't know, it just left me so hollow. And I ultimately found astrology, and I felt seen for the first time. Like I in the way that no one ever could. And now that I think about it, I'm so Scorpio rising, right? Like what I was able to curate was not really what was matching up from within. And so, you know, ultimately I felt, wow, really called to astrology. And actually I remember even giving me a soul return reading at like the beginning of my junction out into the astrological path. But yeah, it's been a couple of years since I left Wall Street. I used to do institutional sales. I started out as an investment banker. I kind of did a lot of different roles within the finance industry. But now I think, I'm kind of allowing myself to really create in every capacity possible, whether that's soul conversation or whether that's pop culture conversation, both
I
creation. Hmm.
love how you bring both of those in. Can I ask, what do you have Jupiter and Saturn in?
Oh, my Jupiter is in Leo.
That's the pop culture. Yes. Okay.
There it is on the midheaven. And then my Saturn is in Aquarius, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
So that to me feels like that Aquarius, Saturn in Aquarius, and Pluto on your ascendant, because that's where the Pluto. What is your other handle about Pluto? What is it?
Oh, yeah. So my personal, more spiritual page is Agent of Pluto. So I consider myself an agent, but it's really a double play on Mars as well, as the agent of Pluto and as the co-ruler of my chart. So yeah, a lot of wordplay, a lot of multitudes. Nothing is ever as it seems, I think, is how I want to even approach pop culture.
I love the duality, how you do that deep soul work and you could do the fun pop culture thing at the same time. Yeah, and what a perfect time to talk about Venus
Mm,
and this Venus retrograde. So, why don't you like how what is your wisdom you share about Venus itself
yeah.
and then about the retrograde cycle?
Yeah. So, I mean, one, I think this is no ordinary Venus retrograde because it happens to meet eclipse season, Mercury retrograde, Neptune moving into Aries. So there is such meaningful rebirth happening here, okay, in whatever part of the chart contains Aries for you. But even if we think about it archetypally, Aries as the leader, as a pioneer, as a hero, heroine, where are you looking to reclaim that sort of heroine identity in your life, right? Where are you looking to take charge again? Where are you looking to lead almost with this sort of, you know what? Everyone may think I'm crazy, but you know what? I trust myself and I trust what I know. And so I'm going to move forward, right? I think Venus retrogrades really give us this beautiful opportunity to see where our values have evolved, right? And it's really a see and wait action. It's not, oh my God, I know my values exactly now. It's almost as if your relationships needed to inform you of how you've evolved as well. And so now you kind of get to have this negotiation. What do I like? Okay, what do I really like? And what do I not like anymore? And to have the compassion to say, I've changed my mind on some things. So in essence, I think it's actually a really beautiful period of renewal for your relationships, how you even want to approach your abundance mindset, but even taking pride in the work you do and valuing yourself. So yeah, that's kind of how I would approach Venus retrograde. And I mean, if you think about it from a pop culture perspective, you should expect headlines to come out like nonstop, right? Because Venus rules artistry, creativity, relationships, money. So we had the Oscars. I mean, right off the bat with Venus retrograde, right?
Oh, I have to
And
pull that chart. Oh
yeah,
no, I got to see. Have you pulled the chart?
I don't oh my God, I don't have the chart in front of me, but I know the chart is a Leo rising with like all the Aries in the ninth house, with the
Hmm.
Aries moon. Yes. So, it's interesting to think about it in the context of the nominees even. I think, we've got storylines that feel very evocative of Venus retrograde, with, Amelia Perez, with, oh my gosh,
Oh
I
well,
can't even.
Venus retrograde's already shown up because the woman who was really looking like they were going to win the Oscar for that Amelia Perez
Yes,
movie
yes.
had to. Have they taken themselves out of the running totally?
No, so they're still in the running.
Okay.
They're showing up this weekend. Netflix is paying for everything. So it is a really interesting moment. It's complicated, right? It's very Jupiter Gemini as well, because that's in the backdrop. Everything is
Oh,
multitude. So there are a lot of different
why don't you
stories.
explain the story to people for people who don't know what's going on with that movie?
Sure, of course. So if folks have not seen this movie, Amelia Perez, it was the, I guess, most nominated movie at the Oscars this year, 13 nominations. It is on Netflix. Selena Gomez is in it, Zoe Saldana's in it, and Carla Sofia. They are one of the leads as well. But recently, some, I guess, unsavory commentary, disappointing commentary, controversial commentary had come out from Twitter about, the past. Carla might have made some Islamophobic and kind of, talked trash about her co-stars, just really disrespectful all around the board. And so
Mm-hmm.
people were kind of petitioning, oh my God, should they take themselves out of the race? Should they even show up to award season? So yes, they will be showing up. Netflix is footing the bill, but it remains to be seen if there's going to be a reconciliation with the cast, which is also very Venus retrograde, right? Old co-workers, old relationships coming back. How are we going to actually handle simmering conflict now that it's on the table? Like, can we be civil with each other? Interesting times for sure.
Very interesting times for, yeah. So she, like the Amelia Perez person, is literally Venus retrograde coming to the Oscars. Is
Mm-hmm.
the movie going to win? Ah, because who is going to get the prize? Jupiter and Gemini. I have to think about
Yeah,
where
and
that's going on.
I was gonna say you've got some really good predictions. I love reading when you channel stuff, and it's like,
Oh,
oh my
thank you.
gosh, like the descriptions are so visceral. And so for me, I'm kind of thinking, I mean, this is a light prediction. I haven't looked at it totally in depth, but I think the Conclave is actually going to be a real dark horse, to take Best Picture for sure.
Ah,
Um,
ah,
yes.
at the Oscars, the
Hmm.
Sun in Pisces is square Jupiter and Gemini. And are there two? Is there anything dual in conclave?
Well, so that's the thing. Yes, it's about two, like basically the Pope has passed, and now they're trying to choose the next Pope, which feels very on. It's too much. It's too much right now.
It's art reflects life. Okay.
Yes, it's so Piscean. And so if I think about even the Oscars chart, again with the Leo rising, all Aries energy in the ninth house of religion. And so, it kind of feels interesting, the symbolism there.
Okay. I think you're onto something.
Crush.
I think you're onto something that feels so in line with the story. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't done any research yet, so I'm not going to make a prediction. But I'll look at the chart too. But it's so
Yeah.
in line with the story. But then there's also Demi Moore's movie, The
Mm-hmm.
Substance. I haven't seen it yet. I want to watch. I wanted to watch them all, but
I know some theaters are having like marathons this weekend. I think,
mm,
AMC is having a marathon this weekend. Not today because I guess it's a economic blackout day, but tomorrow and Sunday from what I've understood. But The Substance you can actually watch on Mubi, and I know they have a free trial for like
yes.
7 days. So you can stream that this weekend if you wanted to, for
I've
free.
been me. I was going to watch it last night, but then I had a whole problem of stuff. But
Oh
anyway,
no.
okay. So I will try
Yeah.
to get that done. I'm delaying Venus retrograde watching the movie. So Venus entered her shadow back on January 28th at 24 Pisces. And so
Hmm.
all of that ground, the Venus ground around relationships, beauty, love, money, values is like we're coming and we're going to go backwards and go back over it. Yeah. And then go back over it one more time. So there could be a three-part story that people are dealing with. Is there anything you say about the different, how do you describe a retrograde and what comes up
Mm-hmm.
during that?
I say, retrogrades are like the universe actually being really kind. So the first time you experience the energy, you're probably going to fail at it, or it's not going to necessarily go the way you planned, whether it's like a conversation or an intention around a relationship. And then it's the idea that the retrograde gives you a chance to catch up, ego and soul, intention with action. So when it actually meets the second time, it's like, okay, we get to come to the table. We actually understand a little better what we want out of this negotiation so that when the final hit does take place, there's a renewal, there's a true sense of conviction that actually feels aligned. So it is a beautiful trilogy when the retrogrades hit and go back over like this, and Venus emerges on the other side as a morning star, ready to kind of take on the world and lean into the charge.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, it's a beautiful time to go within, but we're seeing things as well. So you described that movie, and I love how you say it can be a blessing. Yeah, because
It
always
can.
something good comes out of the retrogrades, even with the difficulties. For me, I'm
Mm-hmm.
spending a fortune on my dog because
Oh,
unfortunately has cancer. I found out yesterday at the new moon in Pisces. It
oh, I'm
wasn't a
so
shock because I
sorry,
knew we had a
Sam.
problem, but it was like, oh,
I'm so
last night I had a
sorry,
breakdown,
Sam.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, and I know your cancer is probably feeling that too. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
so sorry. Losing a
Mhm.
pet or navigating that is so
Yeah.
incredibly
He,
difficult.
it is. He feels fine, but
Mm-hmm.
my Mars retrograde in the sign
Mm-hmm.
of Cancer was he can't hold his pee as much as he used to be able to. So dealing with this in the house, like
Mm-hmm.
getting all these pee pads out, and like it's just been like so literal what I'm dealing
Yeah.
with
Wow.
with
Wow. I mean,
this.
yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because last Venus retrograde was in Leo, the most recent one we had in that summer. I actually lost my cat during that Venus retrograde. And I remember thinking at the time, oh my gosh, like there were so many relationship things. It was just overwhelming. And so, if you happen to find yourself in very similarly overwhelming circumstances where it's like, I'm trying to keep my head above water, and yet one more thing keeps happening, and this is a huge emotional toll. Um, I always look fondly back at that time and realize, wow, the universe was actually one giving me a second to come back to myself, giving me my spiritual guardian a chance to transcend, to allow for other spiritual guardians. So I have two cats now that have come through, and really rehaul all my relationships and the way I chose to care for myself and prioritize my energy. And without how difficult that was, I don't think I could have come out the other side feeling empowered to really enact those changes for myself.
That's a beautiful spiritual way to look at loss. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And yeah, my Venus is stationing on my Chiron in the 10th
Mm.
house. So, and I just got this is going to hurt this Venus retrograde last night. And it's like, yeah, it's going to hurt, but oh God, what's going to happen at the eclipse? Let me not run the astrology forward. Let's sit here and have some fun.
Well, I was gonna say, positive things can happen during Venus retrogrades. We're going along that theme, right? You know, Lady Gaga is probably gonna have a very good Venus retrograde. Okay, she's a
What?
Venus Aries.
Ah,
And she's got Mayhem coming out, Abracadabra, which, very witchy anthem, but so Venus and Aries as well. I think, therefore I do, or, my words matter. Like, there's just so much power and potency. But she generally has pretty solid Venus retrogrades, especially like the last three Venus retrogrades in Aries. So for folks also who are tuning in for this Venus retrograde, you'd probably want to look back to, 8 years ago, right? Like a Venus cycle is 8 years for some reference on how maybe this Venus retrograde could go for you. From the Oscars perspective, that was the year they had the snafu where they announced La La Land instead of Moonlight at the awards show.
Mix
But
up.
maybe we see some surprises this year at the Oscars of like unexpected.
Absolutely. And
Hmm.
Mars in Cancer can be the underdog because Mars is in fall in the sign of Cancer. So people who are expected to win may
Hmm.
not win. And
Hmm.
well,
Oh,
and
I love.
Demi Moore's been winning a lot of stuff, and she's like up
Yeah.
until now, she's never been treated like the serious actress she is. I mean, I used to
Hmm.
watch her on General Hospital. She was Laura Templeton.
I mean, she is so iconic. Like, I still remember the G.I. Jane posters for like
Mm-hmm.
she's gone through so much transformation. She's, I think, a Scorpio stellium, if I remember correctly. So it makes sense. She's gone through a lot of career evolutions, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
really excited that this Phoenix Rising is part of her story or reclamation. She is seemingly in pole position to win. However, I will say Mikey Madison is probably the other person you'd want to look out for because she is the lead in Enora, which is,
Oh, I
I would
saw that.
say, yes, very Venus retrograde story as well, because she is a stripper with a heart of gold who's really looking for that romantic fantasy. And I think that's so Venus retrograde in Aries as well. But Mikey has a Jupiter and Venus, I believe, in Aries, or she's got prominent Aries at that 9 degrees, that critical degree for this station. So it feels like something potent there. Whether it's best picture, whether that's best actress is interesting, but definitely something for Enora coming through. Hmm.
I could totally see that happening. Yeah, I saw that.
Hmm.
She was amazing in it. But I
Hmm.
know Jennifer Esposito, an actress, was critical about why are we always elevating stories of
Hmm.
women who are in prostitution or on this, yeah,
Hmm.
or just relying, looking for the Prince Charming to,
Yeah.
they laugh that up at the Hollywood C-suite or what have you. Yeah, and if she wins over Demi Moore, there'll
Hmm.
be, I'm sure there'll be people having some things to say. Yeah, but she was
Yeah.
very good in that movie, and
Yeah, that's
it was thought provoking. Mm.
yes, absolutely. I love you bringing that up because I do think that this is also going to be a really significant narrative of Venus retrograde and the echoing of Me Too from 2017
Ah,
as well, which was the last time we had a Venus retrograde in Aries, the rise of the Me Too movement. So reclaiming female stories and identity, right? It goes beyond sexual harassment. It goes beyond toxic workplaces. It goes into the stories that we tell ourselves and how women are sexualized and how we reclaim that to the male gaze, female gaze. I think a lot of this is going to be up for consideration in the zeitgeist with this Venus retrograde as well.
absolutely, yeah. Looking back, and there was
Hmm.
an interesting Venus retrograde story today that's not
Mm.
related to the Oscars, but President Zelensky was in the White House, and this ding dong from Fox News asked him about his his what he's wearing. We got Elon Musk having a his kid rubbing boogers on the Resolute desk, and he's giving this man who's fighting for his country a problem about how he's dressed.
Mm.
Anyway, I diverge, and he said something about Zelensky said something about that maybe he'll change his costume, which is so Venus,
Hmm.
after the war ends. Uh, and yeah, he's just sitting there looking at this guy like, you're asking me about what I'm like. His big
Hmm.
criticism is, why aren't you wearing a suit? And
Oh
like
my
the
God.
American people are upset that you're not wearing a suit. No question about from Gaza or, any of
Hmm.
this insanity. That's just fine. But,
Hmm.
you know, anyway, it
Yeah.
really got me. And it's such a Venus in Aries kind of. I'm in a war. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be comfortable, but presentable. Yeah,
Literally. It kind of reminds me because again, we're entering retrograde season, so there's a lot of recollecting. It reminds me of like when Obama wore his tan suit, and then
absolutely.
like why is this living rent free in your head? Like, does it matter? It's like what is happening? But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
totally reminds me of that. Um, you know what is okay, now that I'm going down this rabbit hole, it is interesting because in the US Sibley chart, the US has a Saturn in Libra. So when I think about, Venus ruling Libra, this idea of decorum and like what are we really prioritizing, form over function really? And then Venus and, with all this Aries is opposing that. Like it feels like there is this challenge to, social decorum and norms. And to your point, this is so embodied in this whole discussion with Zelensky right now.
Yeah, and people may be finding somebody criticized me on one of my videos about how I jump around, so maybe I should jump to the next thing. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I jump around. My mind goes all over the place.
Was it an
Anyways,
Earth sign? I was gonna
I don't
say.
know who
You
it
got a
was.
Venus and Mars and Gemini. You should jump around because otherwise, where's the fun in that?
Yeah, but I love how you brought up that Venus is opposite Saturn and Libra, and well, in the U.S. chart anyway. But
Hmm.
Venus is stationing at 10 Aries, so people can look at their chart in that what house that's in, and think about, people in your life may be coming back, or you're reviewing things about all of this stuff. But it has something to do with the solar eclipse last year was at 10 Libra. So there's an
Hmm.
opposition there. And so some issues that had an issue around last fall may come back again for resolution around this time, is I think how this could show up. So if you were in some kind of Aries conflict with somebody, or competing against something, or like, yeah, maybe there'll be
Hmm.
something for people to look at and think about what was going on last September, October, November of
Hmm.
last year, and see if there's rhymes or conclusions or
Hmm.
what recognition. I've got so many people who are like, today I had conversations with two clients and a friend about the things, people in your life also being revealed to you, because
Hmm.
I like to talk about retrogrades. You walk over this ground, and then the retrograde pulls back the tape, and you can see
Hmm.
underneath the tape, and underneath the surface with Venus, and learning about who people really are and how they relate and how they go after what they want with that Aries piercing energy. And it may be a little triggering, so you're learning about people, and can you give them some grace, or is this someone you need to sever yourself from, or like that's going to be a big story that people are going through.
Yeah, I love you referencing the eclipse, I guess, is of last fall. Because realistically, every transit can be viewed at in isolation, but really everything does build on each other for a greater narrative. And that also timing wise coincides with Mars's shadow period. Mars officially stationed retrograde in Cancer, and Mars is important, obviously, because Mars rules Aries. And so with Venus, Mars is actually in control of this retrograde, right? Or like lording over this retrograde. So the idea that Mars had its shadow narrative beginning end of September, early October, coinciding with this as well, you can expect to see, when you talked about severance, like close ties, maybe long-standing relationships too that just would have felt so, my God, how did we even get here? Like this is kind of that moment where you are really, you know trusting relationships that make you feel safe, and also how can you make relationships also feel safer in your presence.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much a two-way street, but yeah, definitely coinciding narratives between Mars and Venus.
Yeah, they're in signs that square each other, even though they're not going to meet for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, this is going to be very revelatory for people on the personal level
Mm-hmm.
as well as on the world stage. The United States has a Libra midheaven. So
Mm-hmm.
Venus rules our executive branch, and as well as there's something about our most public point in our chart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's opposite in the sign of its detriment. And now we're going to pull back the tape and see, there's so much ugliness that's been going on since January.
Yeah.
And ooh, I think last month there was this theme of the new moon in Aquarius was conjunct Icarus. And
Mm-hmm.
it was right before the new moon in Pisces, it was announced that the the government, the FAA canceled the Verizon contract to do Starlink, which is
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk's thing, and he's
Mm-hmm.
all in our systems and doing all this stuff to enrich himself under the
Mm-hmm.
guise of whatever efficiency, but taking the money away from the people
Right.
and putting it in the wealthy's pocket is essentially all we've seen so far, pretty much. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I assume Verizon's going to fight back. It's not like a person just one person in a department. They've got deep pockets to fight back
Mm-hmm.
against this kind of corruption.
Mm-hmm.
So with something
Mm-hmm.
not being put out to bid and just handed over. So I think that's going to be a story of this Venus retrograde. And that might have to be revisited, and it may be the collapse of something contemplated. So with retrogrades, you'll see delays, reversals, conflicts, and the collapse of things contemplated.
Mm-hmm.
So Venus has to do with agreements, and Mercury has to do with contracts. So Venus is retrograde March 1st through April 12th, and then Mercury, I think it's April, is
Mercury
it?
is officially entering the shadow tomorrow.
Yeah.
Retrogrades on the 15th, and then April 7th is when it concludes its retrograde.
Thank you. So
Mm-hmm.
that March 15th through April 7th, that double retrograde where Mars and Venus are both retrograde in Aries, the sign of conflict. I think there's going to be like a lot of all of these things they've been doing, like reversed or causing problems
Mm-hmm.
for us. Like I keep getting the systems down kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, that makes
I think.
sense, especially with a Virgo lunar eclipse. It just feels prime for system malfunction.
Mhm. So I think people need to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
So go, not today, but another day, not today and not tomorrow if you can help it, but
Right.
just stock up before next week on some water. Like, what if there was something that the water systems went down? You can't get fresh water. So, do you have enough bottled water in your house or
Mm-hmm.
whatever? Get some non-perishable foods. Get your pet food. Get extra in case there's a week or something where you can't get supplies. Is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
recommending to people
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah, and I mean
something
this.
big could be coming that we don't see coming until it's here. I'm calling it the peekaboo virus.
Mm,
Like,
yeah, yeah. I feel like I've seen a lot of astrologers comment, obviously, there's the astrology of 2025, and then there's the astrology of March of 2025. And which in of itself could be
it's
its own special, it's so much happening in one month. And again, with eclipses, we sure you can maybe make calls on the nature of what could transpire, and Virgo is the sign of health, right? And with all this Pisces, in the air, there is a sense of, oh, porosity and, oh, infection as such, right? So you can kind of make these deductions. But um, admittedly, again, a lot of us haven't necessarily experienced a month like this, And so for all of us, it's kind of staring into the unknown a little bit and having conviction and faith that we can come out the other side and community. And so, with Pluto and Aquarius, if we're stocking up on resources, right? Like it's the idea of, well, maybe I should sync up with my community. Who has this resource? Who has this resource?
mhm.
Where can we, share and actually then kind of rely on ourselves in that way, right? So it's not like I'm trying to hoard and save myself. It's like, how can we work together to let these resources go farther than maybe even intended? Like the scarcity mindset can get really loud with Aries, with all this Aries in the air and the
Ah,
fear. Um, but it's the idea of, okay, the fear can be there to motivate you into action. So what are you going to do about it that is actually not only going to help yourself, but can actually help other people as well as part of it.
I love that because one of the things I'm going to do is reach out. I live in a condo building to all my neighbors and
There
say,
you
hey, I
go.
think we should be stocking up a little bit. And,
Hmm.
if something comes up that we can, rely on each other and
Yeah.
we may, I don't know how I'm going to word it, but something like that. Because I saw uh, because at the eclipse on March 13th or 14th, depending where you are,
Hmm.
and the event that's going to happen is going to happen a day or two early when the sun meets Saturn. That's when we're going to realize, uh-oh,
Hmm.
there's a problem here. And I just saw people like just running to the store. So I'm
Yeah.
saying go to the
Yeah.
store early, stock up a little bit. We're not talking about hoarding, but
No eggs, please. No hoarding of the eggs.
yeah, no, there's no need to hoard, I don't think,
Hmm.
but there is a need to not to fill your
Yeah.
gas tank. Keep your gas tank
Yeah.
filled in case you need to go somewhere. Yeah, and maybe even make sure you have some water in your car if you get stuck somewhere. Like if the like a bridge gets stuck up or something like
Hmm.
that, because there's a Mercury is stationing to go retrograde on the day of the lunar eclipse on March 14th. So that
Hmm.
suggests some transportation problem or communication problem, and something is stuck in a way that means like we're stopped in some way. So, what are you going to do? Make sure you have some cash at home. Do you need to have $10,000 under your bed? No, not necessarily, but you may want to have at least a couple of hundred or something. Um, yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. Just
Hmm.
do what you can to prepare in case, and it
Hmm.
might not be any kind of breakdown. It may be a breakdown in Texas, and it doesn't affect anyone else.
Hmm.
But there is some kind of breakdown coming.
Well, it's interesting you mention it because, pop culture life. The Blue Origin space female crew just got announced, obviously this week. Gail King, Katy Perry, Lauren Sanchez, and it's actually a pretty diverse female crew, which is nice to see. But in the context of everything, is this the most appropriate use of resources? But
And what
obviously,
horrible timing.
I was gonna say they're launching in the spring. So, hearing what you're saying and then kind of digesting, okay, like there are these certain events, these prominent events that are taking place. Like, could it be the event itself, like encapsulating, okay, yeah, that checks out, that hits what the energy is trying to describe? Or, could there be more here that we need to be like a little more mindful of, that we should be looking out for? So very
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
to keep in the
If
back of
this thing goes up and blows up in the middle of the air, and that's the big event,
mind.
that doesn't impact us here on Earth much. I mean, it
Right.
impacts the people who love the people who are gone.
Right.
I think if that happens, we're going to see a lot of celebration about these wealthy people being, and
Yeah.
then the news is going to be saying, you shouldn't be celebrating these people, like Jeff Bezos losing his love. I mean,
Hmm.
people are going to love that.
It would be
Now,
very interesting,
I'm going to be
especially
sad for
because,
Oprah.
oh my gosh, I know. Oh my God. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is just merely speculation, but it is interesting. We're talking about the context of, the discrepancy between reactions, rich versus poor,
Uh-huh.
because Luigi's trial, Luigi Mangione, is also going to be part of the Venus retrograde narrative. I believe he has Venus in Aries, literally.
Say that again. You got
Oh,
a garble for
sorry.
a second.
Luigi Mangione's trial is also going to be taking place. I mean, I forget if it was the federal or the state that's coming up on that eclipse as well. So, there's this people reacting to Luigi and what he did, how you felt about it. There's a mirroring here,
We
right? In this
love that killer.
projection. Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say we. I should say there's a good percentage of people who love that killer. When I saw his new picture, I was like, Luigi is looking good.
Like, I need to learn those angles. Like, what? How do you know what's this profile? Like, oh my gosh.
He's a that Italian stallion, which I called
Oh my
Italian stallion.
gosh.
I don't know
I
well, I know
mean,
where I got it from, but
he's got Mars on his sun in Taurus, you know? So there is a natural sensual sex appeal. And here's the thing. Oh my gosh, I've gotten a lot of commentary about this is so much more important than his looks. I hear you. I totally agree. But I
He's an
also,
avatar.
exactly. I mean,
He's
people,
Perseus,
he
who
is
beheaded the monster.
Wow. You know what? That is a great myth connection. Pretty privilege is very real. It's a superpower. If he's attractive and gets more people on the cause, amazing. Like, I am here for it, you know? So to me, it's the perfect storm. And again, you can't deny Mars on the sun. Your attractiveness motivates people. Like, it
Yes.
brings people together, Taurus. So,
And he's got Chiron opposite that. Oh, and I forgot to do him in my World Points talk because I did a World Points talk for Kepler. He has his Sun Mars conjunction. Well, his Sun is at 15
yes.
Taurus, and 15 of the fixed signs is a world point. And opposite Chiron and Scorpio,
Mm-hmm.
and he used that energy to take out, a greedy so-called healer, the head of the CEO of the healthcare insurance
Mm-hmm.
company. But people want to caretake Luigi. I'm sure he can send all kinds of care packages.
He's got a limit on the pictures you can send him. So you're limited
Okay.
to 5, I think, per person now, sending pictures to him in prison.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not sending Luigi any pictures. I'm just
Yeah.
commenting on the.
Yeah.
But even his fellow prisoners love him. I mean,
Yes.
everybody's out to help him and protect him. He's an
It's
archetype on fighting back against
mm-hmm.
the corporate greed where they're letting people die for $1
Mm-hmm.
to put into shareholders' pockets. So
Mm-hmm.
not that
Yeah.
it's okay to be murdering people and all that, but um,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is very, I mean, I as a Scorpio rising and a Sag moon, I love these questions that are coming up that are really forcing us to push our values, right? Like, where really are our values, you know? Because I would be willing to bet a lot of people who may never have been thinking about, does the end justifies the means, right? Like, I think
Mm.
we all maybe had a position around that before last year, and then last year hit, and you're like, okay. Like, there are many instances of showing us that the end does not justify the means. So really, where are we at? And again, if you apply that personally to your own life, right? Like, there are things that have changed. You have changed. There are different ways of taking in the world. And again, this is what retrogrades do best. It is help realign us, reinform us, reawaken us to what we actually have known inside, but maybe have not actually caught up with on the material plane.
Ah.
So,
Well, that's so interesting. You said, does the end justify the means?
mhm,
So, one of the things with this Venus retrograde cycle is Venus and Saturn in Pisces are meeting 3 times.
mhm,
So, and Saturn, and it's like you can think about with Venus what you desire, to get what you desire. And in
mhm.
Pisces, like,
Everything.
is it an illusion, delusions? Like there's flow, there's change about does the end justify the means? And there's like questions, and I love that. And
I was gonna say too, an important, I think incident that's happened over the last couple of days, and maybe it might not have landed very well yet, but the Epstein logs um, getting revealed, which I feel like is in of itself a whole thing because it is a Venus retrograde that will be going back into Pisces. So it feels more like that's going to be a Venus Pisces Saturn story with that, just because of the seeding of it here with the new moon in Pisces. Like, it just feels there's more coming with that because I know a lot of people are very disappointed because it's like, we don't, not that they've told us anything we don't already know. Trump's on the law. Great. We've known that for a long time. But I do think because of how limited this information was made available, this is going to take some time to actively like make itself heard in the collective. And so it does feel like it's part of the story, but it's only going to start coming out when Venus moves back into Pisces at that point.
Yes, when Venus goes back into Pisces, where she's exalted, and we see some of these
Mhm.
exalted figure. But something about that is,
Mhm.
I guess I haven't had time to look really
Yeah.
into it, but you click a link to go look at the something about this, and the people are being rickrolled by the government. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's almost like what is the government trying to do? I follow this lady on, I think it's House and Habit. That's the Substack. It
Okay.
does not necessarily reflect my political views, but I like to just be informed. I like to understand where people's heads are at. And she had alluded to the fact that the White House was trying to restore, I guess, confidence in independent journalism. So, there's all this stuff, all this narrative going on, right? A lot of smoke and mirrors going on. But that is the party line. That is the party line in how the information is being delivered. Investigative, independent journalists in their hands. Mm-hmm.
Well, but the rickroll is when it's like
It's a
you're
joke.
punking something, and it's
Yeah.
like the our leaders that we pay to represent us are punking us by we go try to get the information, and it's Rick Ashley, never gonna give you up, never gonna let. It's like we're in Alice in Wonderland.
We really are.
Yeah,
This
that's
Piscean
maybe that's why I
timeline.
keep getting that song in my head.
Definitely a Rickroll moment. Yes.
Yeah, there's no one. There's a White Rabbit. Go tell Alice what she said. That song. I think that has
Yes.
something to do with this energy.
Yes.
Mm,
Very through
okay.
the looking glass, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see
Hmm.
what happens with that Epstein thing. And I had something come through in January about the two leaders in a car on a way to an airplane or something. So we'll see if that shows up. That hasn't come up yet. So we'll see how that
Mm.
shows up
I was
because it
gonna
feels so
ask.
Epstein.
Oh my God, totally. I mean, I was gonna ask, have you gotten any tingling, any potent downloads coming through with this Venus
Well, I
retrograde
got one
energy?
yesterday about someone's Jesus's son
Mm.
and maybe with a drug problem who's going to surface, something's going to surface big. And in my mind, I was thinking Junior and you know,
Mm.
the Wizard of Oz, but it could be someone totally different. So something
Interesting.
about someone's child. We'll see. I'll write
Interesting.
about it if it happens, if it comes through.
Mm. I,
But it felt
yeah.
very, very clear,
Mm-hmm.
nose candy kind of stuff. I
Interesting.
don't know.
Well, I
Because I
say
did
this,
a download and it was like
yeah,
cocaine is a hell of a drug was one of the things. I think there's a
yeah,
story in there um,
yeah.
that
I
has something to do with someone's child.
admittedly, one of the rumors that I've seen in my corner of the internet,
Oh,
because part of what I do is also look at rumors and see if there's relevance in charts to for accuracy. Jack Schlossberg has been in the rumor blinds.
ooh,
Jack Caroline Kennedy's son,
ooh,
and
that
rumors of um, a very happy drug habit. Hmm.
ah, that could be it.
Hmm.
And after she talked about she recorded a video about
Hmm.
RFK Jr. about basically she outed him as I think as a sadist,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
I saw myself in his chart
Hmm.
personally for
Hmm.
entertainment only.
Yes.
Uh,
All for entertainment. All for entertainment purposes only.
she outed him, and this could be to get her back, outing her son as outing her son as, and the Kennedy family is the Corleones.
It's an interesting theory, but that
Okay.
was the
Well,
first thing that came to mind of the blinds that I'd come across recently
where
in the way
do you
you
go for
described it.
blinds?
What'd you say,
Where
Willow?
where do you go for the blind
Oh,
Rumors.
I get them from like TikTok or Instagram. I mean,
Oh,
Dumois is obviously like a really popular one, but then there
which
are
one's
others.
popular?
Oh, Dumois is a popular one, even though it's Deuxmoi, even though admittedly some of the blinds recently have been more PR publicists getting involved rather than actual blind content. But celebrity blinds on TikTok, it's
Oh,
very interesting. I mean, there's a lot about Justin Bieber right now. I don't know if you're
uh-huh.
getting any hits on Justin Bieber, but there's a lot of people asking like watch over Justin Bieber because things
Yeah,
are not as
he's
they seem behind
yeah,
him.
he's
He's
got.
going through it.
I think he was put through the ringer. Yeah, as a child
Yeah.
star. Yeah,
And with the Diddy stuff coming up last year,
yeah.
there's a lot going on, right? But yeah, like NT Lawyer, these folks
Yeah,
who
I used to read Celebrity Days and Nights.
yes. NT Lawyer's still coming through. I mean, I think there was a blind from September. And so this was what was really interesting to me. So back in September, NT Lawyer had posted about how Jay-Z at the time had gone to meet a criminal defense lawyer and a divorce lawyer in the same week. And it was during that lunar eclipse Pisces season. Okay, so earlier we talked about how
Mm.
this retrograde is going to maybe see events play out from that September, October, November horizon around the eclipse season. So again, just noting that this was something that NT Lawyer did bring up, and it led me down a rabbit hole because it's like, okay, let me now look at Jay-Z's chart to see what's happening. Even though we don't really have an A chart, he's still got Virgo, a lot of Virgo and Sag energy in his chart. And the eclipses, this eclipse in this spring was very momentous for Jay-Z. And I think the September one is too. So yeah, it's just going to be really, I think, interesting to observe.
Yeah.
Again, for entertainment purposes only.
Yes. Hmm. Yeah, I saw him because you can even look at Beyonce's chart. It's
Mm-hmm.
Mars retrograde, and in her chart, if it's right, Mars rules him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll see what
Mm-hmm.
comes up with that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, Beyonce and Venus retrogrades, like that's a pretty, I think, interesting conversation. I know Chris Brennan's talked about it on the astrology podcast, but I think Survivor,
Ah,
Destiny's Child, that came out during a Venus retrograde.
love it.
Obviously now, with Cowboy Carter, her tour starting up in April, now there's like a lot of prep for that. So there is definite like career stuff with Beyonce in the Venus retrogrades. I think, you know what, last Venus retrograde in 2017, I forget, was that when she had her twin announcement,
Ah,
maybe? I think that was the year she
maybe.
posted. Yes, yes, it was Sir Rumi. She had the Instagram announcement, the florals, it like broke the internet. So that was a very Venus retrograde moment for her as well. Because I think that was the year Gaga stepped in to fill her spot at Coachella. And again, an important
Ah,
Venus retrograde for Gaga as well.
okay. Yes. Yeah, the lawsuit against Jay-Z was retracted. I saw that. Yeah, someone put in the
Yes.
comments.
Yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
But I still have my eye out. We'll see. I'm just,
Yeah,
the
someone in
cycles
the
just
comments saying like Jay-Z is going down next. I
the
don't think
cycles just started,
there is this double-bodied energy with Jupiter in Gemini. So even though he walked past that minefield, there could be another minefield coming for
Hmm.
Jay-Z down yeah, it's not that easy to get out of stuff. If he's done anything,
Right.
I haven't followed him very closely, so I don't know
Yeah.
about his stuff. But
Yeah.
oh, what was I gonna say? Mm, I had something to say. I forgot. Oh, someone said The Brutalist is going to win Best Actor.
Oh, okay, okay. So that's actually very interesting because
Now, this is,
Brady Corbett, the director of The Brutalist, has, I believe, I can't remember exactly, but he's got like a Venus in Cancer. He's got a cardinal Venus and a cardinal Mars at 9 degrees or 10 degrees.
ooh.
So it feels okay. Yes, The Brutalist is going to take something, but what is it specifically? I personally think he's going to take Best Director
Ah, okay.
for The Brutalist. But then the best actor category is going to be interesting with Timothy and Adrian Brody. So what's interesting is Adrian Brody, I guess, is currently he is the youngest actor to have won during his Saturn return, I believe.
Oh
And
yeah, he
Timmy,
won for that
the pianist. Hmm.
pianist. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. And Timothée Chalamet is actually going through his Saturn return this
And what's he
Oscars, and
up
he
for? What movie?
a complete unknown. He plays Bob Dylan.
Oh, okay, I haven't
Hmm.
seen it.
Yeah, I mean, he's amazing in it, and he actually just had a speech at the SAG Awards that was so Capricorn stellium. You could
Uh,
not have asked for a more Capricorn stellium speech. He declared that he was chasing greatness. He was in the pursuit of greatness.
ooh.
And he was letting everyone know in the audience, his peers, that's what he's striving for. And he really values the work and effort he's put in. So it is so interesting to see, okay, Pluto's just gone through 16 years in that chart of yours, in that fifth house, really honing your craft, really allowing yourself to transform as an actor. Now that it's moved into your sixth house, he's a Virgo rising. It's
Mhm.
going to transform the landscape of his work, potentially, even. And, it's a really interesting time, I think, for
Ah.
Timmy as well.
Is The
Mhm.
Brutalist a really good movie? I haven't seen that one
The
either.
Brutalist, I think, is an incredible movie. I would argue the first half is better. It's a 3.5 hour movie with intermission.
Oh,
There's actual intermission in the theater that you get to go
oh,
to
I'm
use the bathroom and have
not
a
going
little.
to any theater to sit for 3.5 hours. I have to watch it at home in parts.
Yes,
What
no, this is
are you
definitely, I
making a
mean,
3.5 hour movie? Who has time for that?
it took them 7 years to make this movie, by the way. A
Okay.
whole Saturn square to make this like this movie reeks of Saturn, in
Oh,
like all the different
is it
ways.
boring?
Is I actually thought it was very well paced.
Okay.
It was very intentional. But I have a Jupiter, Mercury, and Leo, so I do love film very much. And I'm okay sitting through like a 3 hour ordeal and just taking in the experience. So again, it's maybe not a movie for everyone, but I think it actually could be an important movie right now for
Okay.
everyone because so much of it talks about the immigrant experience,
Okay.
and this was specifically after after the war, after the Holocaust, and
Ah.
this is from the perspective of Laszlo, who is a Hungarian architect who was separated from his partner and then having to make life anew in the States. It's the immigrant dream meeting the American dream, but then maybe realizing not all is as it seems. So very retrograde, right? The tape has kind of been pulled over, like, what are we really dealing with here? And so you kind of see a different side of America, I think. The idea of the American dream. It's in the poster, it's the inverted Statue of Liberty.
Ah.
Who is it really representing,
That is
So,
an image that's been coming in for me since
mhm.
last year, the inverted Statue of Liberty. And oh God.
It,
And yeah, that's
yeah.
very in line with the energy. And
Hmm.
the clown is taking us back to 1930. So
Hmm.
like we're really in that energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is why I love
Yeah.
film. This is why I love pop culture. And, admittedly, it was at first very difficult to understand how I wanted to view the world through both lens
Yeah.
in this way. But I think that there's so much magic and there's so much symbolism, there's so much meaning in everything. Everything is connected, everything reflects something back to us.
Yeah.
So whether it's film, whether it's celebrity news we're consuming, whether it's world news we're consuming, they all reflect a different archetype that may have a lot of resonance with your life, and that's why you're attracted to it to begin with. And my goal is to illuminate the underlying energetic forces that maybe there's some resonance for you too.
I love that. Yes, yeah. And the celebrity culture is in a lot of ways the mythology of our time. Yeah.
Hmm.
They're the Greek gods, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
doing
it's very
doing all
interesting.
the stuff and like
Yeah.
having consequences. Yeah.
Yeah, oh my God, I love that you even brought that up because immediately my mind goes to like the deities and those who are godlike, but those who marry the mortals, right? The Nepo babies who inherit the DNA, but then you've got Hercules and people who have talents that rise and like are adored and celebrated. It is, I mean, I think for all of us, there's a lot of talk around like the death of celebrity culture. At least that's been coming up in my circles. And I think it's more our death to the relationship that we have with celebrity culture. I think with Neptune and Pisces over the last 13 years, there is an idolization and projection, and, it's them, they can do it, but not me. And so there's a lot of power that goes into celebs and influence. But as we have seen through the election cycles, that power is hollow and meaningless and doesn't actually carry the weight that maybe they're projecting. And so with Neptune moving into Aries at the end of March, amidst this retrograde.
Pop, who's gonna pop? That's why I'm like, Katy
Exactly.
Perry, what are you doing? I mean, literally,
Oh God.
baby, you're a firework, baby.
Literally, literally. Oh
Your
my
ass on the
God.
ground. Maybe Venus retrograde will show up in the being delayed or something, but it's going to show up somewhere. And
It
so is the
is.
solar eclipse in Aries and Mercury retrograde on a world point at the
Yeah.
solar eclipse. And then Neptune goes into Aries. Is this going to be what we're seeing?
I know.
I mean, I could just
I
see it.
know.
Let's hope not. Let's
No,
hope.
I'm hoping not. And I'm hoping because, with
Let's hope
with
not.
Uranus and stuff, like the more you go hard onto a prediction, the least likely it's gonna
Yeah,
come
yeah,
through, right? So I'm
yeah. It's
really
just,
hoping
yeah,
this is not the case.
yeah. No,
But
maybe they're just going to go up just fine, come back just fine, no problem. It's just we loved it, but it just seems like so in line with the energy
yeah,
that
it's a lot.
it's
It's a
it's
lot.
it's it's a lot. The retrograde suggests problems, and before I saw that story, I was writing something about it's Pisces season and people are so
Hmm.
distracted. And I can just see someone, this is what I saw, like forgetting to tighten a screw or do something like
Hmm.
that. And you know what the new moon Sabian symbol is? An aviator in the clouds.
Yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
gotta look at what the lunar eclipse Sabian symbols are. I haven't looked yet.
I know.
Wow.
The
No.
yeah, yeah, I remember
There's
seeing that.
images of airplanes and flights, and I was thinking, oh my God, these Chinese air balloons. Is this going to be part of the story?
Oh
I,
wow.
that's one of my. It was one of my things that came through when I was doing the Aries ingress, which it doesn't reset until
Hmm.
the 19th, so after the eclipse. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean,
This Pisces season is going to go out with a bang for
it
sure.
really is. It really is. And again, it's not to say good things still can't happen. I think there actually can be a lot of really potent good things that
Yes.
happen during this time. I mean, the Legally Blonde prequel is filming during this time. The Odyssey by Christopher Nolan is filming with Zendaya and the superstar cat. Like, there's a
There's
lot of
the
creative.
Odyssey is coming.
Yes, they're
That's one
filming.
of my favorite stories of all
Oh
time.
my gosh! Yes, Zendaya and Tom Holland are in it. And I think
Is she Cersei
Matt. I
or
don't know.
Penelope?
I actually don't know. I don't know.
Mm.
Yes, Lupita is also in it. They're filming in Morocco now during Venus retrograde in Aries, which is so Venus retrograde in Aries. The Odyssey. Come on.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see that. What was the other one you said is coming? Oh,
The
Legally
Legally
Blonde
Blonde
prequel?
prequel. Yes,
Who's going to be
that's
in that?
so they cast an ingenue,
Ah,
but Reese Witherspoon is still very much involved, and it's gonna, I think, come on Prime at some point. But it's Elle was in high school, basically. So we're going back in time, and Buffy is also getting rebooted. Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
ah.
and Sarah Michelle Gellar has a Venus Aries, I believe retrograde maybe, but she has a Venus Aries for sure.
Is she going
Yeah,
to be in it?
yes, I think so.
Oh, and the Michelle Trachtenberg, wasn't she in that? She just
Was.
died.
Yeah, which is very much part of the Venus retrograde cycle because,
Mm.
Yeah, so that was very tragic. But yeah, Neptune on the North Node creates this portal, and I think Maurice Fernandez actually called it out when he had highlighted the portal, like, oh, Neptune and the North Node coming together, there is going to feel like a lot of souls exiting and entering at this time in
Mm-hmm.
whatever shape and capacity. So yeah, it's really tragic, and I hope her soul finds peace where
I
it
hope
may.
so too. How sad.
Mhm.
She was only 39, I think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think post liver transplant, maybe there was some
Yeah.
complications, is the last I heard about that. And I know she's got a Venus and Mars in Virgo,
Oh,
and her
that
Virgo
makes
moon as
sense.
well.
With the
Hmm.
eclipse in Virgo. Yeah. Well, I could talk to you all day, but I'm sure you have things to do. I thank you so much for sharing your
Oh
wisdom. Yeah. And
my
tell people
gosh.
how to find you. Do you have anything coming up you want to let people know about or?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Celeste. You can find me on Instagram at the Pop Astrologist. I'm pretty active in my stories, but I actually just launched my YouTube channel at the Pop Astrologist. So if you are looking for deep dives, like pop culture deep dives, so the premiere episode I have up is with Camille Michelle Gray, who you know as well, Celeste. We break down Kendrick and Drake. And we go very into the beef, the timeline, from an astrological perspective, of course.
Okay, I
So
gotta watch that. Yes.
yeah, just doing some fun, creative things. But definitely check me out on Instagram, YouTube. Would love to see you, and I'm always in my DM. So if you got something you want to say, I'm ready to receive it, and I'm happy to engage.
Well, thank you, Tasha. You have a wonderful weekend, and I hope Venus retrograde treats you well and everybody. Take good care.
Likewise.
And I'll make
Thank
you a
you.
collaborator if you want to put it on your
Oh,
wall.
absolutely, absolutely. And much love to you too, and always happy to hold space for you, Celeste, amidst your time with your beloved, beloved.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. You take good care.